Rivals wonder whether he's up to it.
Is he really the genuine article, or is he somebody who's simply better than his predecessors at presentation?
The issue that destroyed the last two Tory Prime Ministers.
It's a landmine waiting to explode.
Who is David Cameron? Who is George Osborne? We have no idea.
How did the Tories reach the threshold of power? Are they ready for office? And what would they do with it? If David Cameron is taking power in a few weeks' time, he'll be the youngest Prime Minister since 1812 and a Prime Minister with no previous ministerial experience whatsoever. Before he became an MP, David Cameron had only had one job outside politics, as a PR man for a television company. When he decided to run for the leadership of the Conservative Party, he'd been an MP for just 4 years. Most of his Tory colleagues thought it was far too big a gamble to give it to a freshman MP who'd risen without trace. I think you only had 14 supporters.
Oh, I only had about 3.
Change was on the agenda. You've got the famous T-shirts, I love DC, change to win. You know, people now say David Cameron's stolen the word change from Barack Obama.
The Conservative Party was quite traumatised after the 2005 election because we'd lost in 97, lost in 2001, lost in 2005.
He saw himself as a brand manager who would rescue a traditional but tainted product. His first ambition was to detoxify the Tories, to stop voters seeing them as a selfish, narrow, nasty party. One way of doing that was to make them look more like multi-ethnic Britain.
My more middle-class friends from university, etc., they're the ones who have much more of a problem with it. They basically say we can't vote Conservative because they're evil.
I certainly sensed the hostility that was on the streets about what people felt about the Conservative Party.
Modernising had been tried under Ian Duncan Smith. It had been tried under William Hague, and it had been tried under Michael Howard.
England!
The sound bites and the photo opportunities were carefully crafted. He might be the old Etonian son of a stockbroker married to the daughter of a baronet, but his projection was as a regular family guy.
What David Cameron did was what everybody had been hoping a leader of the Conservative Party would be able to do, which was show that Conservatives were all boss-eyed maniacs who were obsessed with Europe and cutting benefits and grinding the faces of the poor.
David Cameron's built his reputation on being nice, not being toxic, not being nasty. One of the problems that the Cameron team has is, because of where they came from, a kind of marketing approach will tell people what they want to hear.
The language was vague, but the messages inclusive.
Did you get that?
In one attention-catching attempt to shift public perception of the Conservatives, he made a speech advocating more love and understanding for feral youths. This was the first time that David Cameron misjudged the effect of a message.
It was all over the papers for weeks. Cameron says, let's hug hoodies. I think perhaps David himself felt that it hadn't helped us look like we were modern and sensible, but it maybe made us look silly.
Then they felt scared. Gordon Brown took over as Prime Minister and enjoyed an early honeymoon with the media and rising support in the polls. The Tories became frightened that he was about to call an election.
Brown had a reputation in senior Conservative circles of having some kind of talismanic status.
Are you ready for an election?
You bet.
That was a bluff, a mask on private panic that the Tories were about to go down to a fourth defeat. David Cameron told one friend that his political career could be over by the time he was 42.
They were wetting themselves. They were desperately keen for it not to happen. And I mean, every Tory I spoke to in August, September 2007 said, if he calls an election, then we lose it. And then what?
Looking back, he should have called a general election in the autumn of 2007, shouldn't he have had you if he'd done that?
No, he should have called the election in the summer. That's what William Hague said to me at the time.
I thought Gordon Brown would call an election. In fact, it was one of the most surprising things in my 21 years in Parliament that he didn't call the election.
Ladies and gentlemen, David Cameron.
David Cameron concealed his nerves. The former spin doctor made himself look unspun by speaking to his party conference for more than 60 minutes without a text. Look, Mum, no auto cue.
I remember before going on the stage sort of thinking, you know, this could go spectacularly wrong. Now, everybody knows that we can never be able to feel good about being Conservatives again. I want young people who have ideas and inspiration to say the Conservative Party switches them off. I want young people to look at the Conservative Party as a party who does not care about the weak, about the poor, about the vulnerable, about the dispossessed and those who get left behind, and we thank you for that. People know that the Conservative Party is heartless, it is gutless, it is pathetic. Let's be honest. We have failed. Let's be honest. The Conservative Party. Never, ever again. I joined this party because I love the name-calling, the backbiting, the point-scoring, the shouting in the House of Commons. We will stick to it. Let the message go out from this conference. Nobody wants to, and no one ever votes for the Conservative Party. It is wrong and we've got to get rid of it.
Politicians don't achieve that level of spontaneity without a lot of rehearsal.
I had a rough order. It wasn't, you know, a sort of memory man, let's kind of remember 4,000 words. I couldn't do that even if I wanted to.
8 brown bottles sitting on a wall. 8 brown bottles.
Gordon Brown, disastrously for his reputation, bottled going to the country. At their most recent party conference, Tories were forbidden from celebrating with their traditional beverage.
I think central office are wound as tight as a drum. They made it quite clear, conference is not a jolly, it's work. If you misbehave, we will have harsh words of you. A headline of, you know, 2 toffee-nosed people, you know, sipping out of champagne flutes is not useful.
What I said was, I don't want, given we've got an enormous economic crisis, I just didn't want people to be lounging about in the hotel, quaffing champagnes.
On a permanent campaign footing, the Conservatives have tried to exploit the electioneering potential of the internet.
Hello chums, welcome to the Summertime Special War Room Briefing. Now you might reasonably have expected me to be somewhere on a lilo, enjoying an ice cream, with my Kiss Me Quick hat placed at a jaunty handle.
David Cameron has high media skills, not a talent to be underrated in modern politics. Even his Labour opponents acknowledge that, but they question whether that is all he has.
Very important for a politician, but a necessary but insufficient qualification to be Prime Minister.
There's a broadband TV channel dedicated to the Tory leader, Webb Cameron. Its camera crew follows him from his kitchen to Baghdad.
Here we are in Baghdad. We're underneath the famous monument, which you'll see in a minute, built by Saddam. Anyway, William, some impressions. What have we found in 2 days?
Extremely difficult security situation here in Baghdad.